Hello, welcome back to Average Home Theater. I am Nelson.
And I'm Dominic.
Yeah, I'll let him introduce himself. This is Dominic. Y'all all know who Dominic is, so we can dispense with the pleasantries. Um,
It's nice to
s-
be back, though.
yeah, it is nice to be
It's
back,
been a
man.
minute back in the average home theater, and
He finally made time for us.
or this could be an illusion. I might be in Katy,
Ooh.
Texas right now. You've gotten a lot better with the
Hmm.
tech, so
So is it real or is it not?
we'll leave it up for interpretation.
Hmm. Okay, maybe we'll have a prestige at the end and
There you go.
right?
Yep, there you
Man, we
go.
are so cool. But anyway, um, so this is episode 3 of Who Did It Better. Um, we decided on both two movies from 2006,
Hmm.
The Illusionist and The Prestige. So, and of course, the reason we chose these movies are because they have similar plots and they came out around the same time, which is the theme of this series,
Right.
which eh, it's fun. I really enjoy this. It happens a lot in Hollywood. So
More often than you would think, too.
yeah, when you start looking at it, it's like, wow, man, it's just a copycat um thing. Like, oh,
Right.
they're
It's
doing
just
that,
like
so
in the ether because these movies came out like a month apart, so it's not like they saw that one and then film. You know what I mean?
oh, they were that close,
I think it was close. Like,
man.
and I was actually working back in the day. I was working at Hollywood Video when these hit video, and I remember people wanting to debate and talk about both. So when we you were doing these videos, I was like, dang, that'd be a perfect one for me because I remember people coming in like, well, how's the Illusionist or how's the Prestige? How's this one to that one? So,
You know what's crazy is I never watched The Illusionist.
oh,
I
really?
had never seen it. This was a first time watch for me, and I don't know why. I love The Prestige. Okay, I'm just gonna throw that out there.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's Christopher Nolan's best movie. So I guess maybe because I liked it so much, I knew there was no way this was going to compare
Sure.
in my mind, so I never bothered to watch it.
Right.
Um, and I also never heard many people talk about The Illusionist. So I guess maybe I don't know, I just never
It
got around to it.
I would say commercially, it probably definitely got overshadowed by the Prestige with.
Well, he was coming off the success of Batman Begins,
Hmm.
so everybody wanted to see The Prestige, his
Right.
next movie.
No, and that was actually pretty cool because, I remember when it was coming out, they were talking about it and they were saying behind the scenes that Christian Bale and Nolan and Michael Caine were all kind of collaborating about what The Dark Knight would be like because this was in between those movies
Hmm.
and it had a lot of the same people working on it. And that was like a nice sweet spot for Nolan with Batman Begins, Prestige, and Dark Knight. Like that was a great little sweet spot for him.
Yeah, he had a good run, that's for sure.
Hmm.
Um, So we're gonna go with The Illusionist
Hmm.
first. It was written and directed by Neil Berger. I don't know this guy. We just looked him up. He did Divergent. I don't know if he did all three of the movies, but he did. Isn't it like a series
Yeah, it's a
or?
series kind of like Hunger Games, so
Okay, so he
yeah,
did at least the first
at
one.
least the first one, yeah.
Um, but he wrote and directed this one. So it almost seems like this might have been one of those like passion projects, but I don't know
Hmm.
anything about it. That's just a guess. Um, it features or it stars Edward Norton, Paul Giamatti, Jessica Biel, and Rufus Sewell, who was the Prince. He was
Right,
great. He always plays a jerk really well.
he does.
Um, and a bunch of other people who I don't really know.
So yeah, the it's actually based on a short story that was derived from like an event of a crown prince's mistress actually being mysteriously killed or disappeared and the secrecy around it, like that's where the short story came from. So there is something there as far as the story basis goes, which is interesting.
Yeah, that isn't because I didn't know that. That's pretty cool.
Yes, but the crown jewel of this is Edward Norton. Like he is awesome in this movie. Whenever he's on screen, I mean Edward Norton, I feel he's up there, but he's kind of underrated.
Yes, he is underrated. But I will have to disagree with you. I think Paul Giamatti steals the show in this.
He's good. He's good too.
Um,
But him with the goatee and the hair and the
oh,
way
he looks the part.
dude, I'm
Yeah,
like if the story sucked, it'd still be awesome because of what he I don't know. He captivated me watching him on screen.
yeah, he's definitely underrated. That's people I think misuse that term a lot.
Hmm.
Um, overrated or underrated.
sure.
But he is an underrated actor. He doesn't quite get the um the accolades he deserves because he really is good.
And he's
Um,
diverse
yeah, he does a whole bunch of stuff.
because I was introduced to him on American History X.
Hmm.
And if you look at American History X, Illusionist, Fight Club, and Incredible Hulk, it's like, oh my gosh, they're four different
Or
people.
American History X. The first thing I ever saw him in was Primal Fear.
Okay.
And he was phenomenal in Primal Fear. I think he was even nominated, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
Have you ever seen
No,
that?
I haven't.
Okay, well,
I need to add it
we
to the
can't
watch list.
speak of it without giving it away. So you need
Wow.
to watch it.
Yeah.
But The Illusionist, um, it's about this kid. It starts out Edward Norton. His name
Mm-hmm.
is what is it? Uh,
E
Alsenheim.
Eisenheim.
Alsenheim.
Eisenheim. Yeah.
And he's what, they're like 10 or 11 years old.
Mm-hmm.
He's in love with this, or he falls in love with this girl who is of higher status. It takes place in
Sure.
England in the
Right.
1800s, and he's a peasant, so they're not supposed to be around each other,
Right.
type of thing. Like he's beneath her, so they were never really allowed to get close.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he ends up leaving when he's a teenager and becomes this magician or this
Right.
illusionist.
And he's played the kid, which at the time wasn't a big deal, but it's he's played by Taylor Johnson, who's like he's done he was in that Craven movie. I don't know if it's good or bad, probably not that great, but
Oh, that's who that is?
yeah, but he was in Kick Ass and he was in what was the other big one? Oh, he was in Age of Ultron. He was been in some of the one of the Avengers movies as Quicksilver.
I didn't
But he was just
realize.
a kid here,
Yeah, I didn't realize
so
that was him in
yeah,
that Craven movie.
yeah.
He gained a little bit of weight. Um,
Yeah.
so he becomes the illusionist, and when he's an adult, he gets discovered by the Crown Prince,
Mm-hmm.
Leopold, who just so happens to want to take Sophie, played by Jessica Biel, who's the
Mm-hmm.
girl. Um, he's choosing her as his bride,
Right.
as his wife, and they rekindle. It's a typical love story type of thing.
This movie
Um,
lives and dies by that. Like that's
yeah,
the crux of this
yes,
film.
this it's a
When
love
he sees
story.
her on stage, when he pulls her out for the trick and realizes, oh my gosh, that's that girl from when I was a kid. The way he sells it, I mean, he's pulled in, and from that moment on, he's like, how do I get her back? What do I do? And it's almost got like Romeo Juliet
Hmm.
thing to it, especially when you get more towards the end. Um, and then that crown prince is a jerk, so you don't feel sorry for him
Oh
at
no.
all.
Oh, he's so good, man. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
That guy, he's the guy from the first night.
yes,
I mean, excuse not the first night, Knight's Tale.
Knight's
Excuse me, A
Tale
Knight's Tale with
with Heath Ledger.
Heath Ledger.
Yeah,
Yeah, he's the other, what do you call it, joust
right. The other
person
duelist. Yeah.
guy, whatever you call him. Um, so he plays that part really well.
Mm-hmm.
And of course he gets pissed off at Edward Norton. He realizes there's a relationship there. He wants to destroy him.
Right.
Yada yada yada.
And then in the background, this whole time, Paul Giamatti is trying to put clues
Yes,
together.
he's the inspector general.
And you get the sense that he's a good dude.
Right.
Like he's judgy towards Edward Norton in the beginning, just because his mere presence is starting like an upheaval, against the government
Hmm.
because they can't really control what he's doing and they don't know if it's real or not. And then they even arrest him.
Hmm.
And some of the basis is like, well, because your tricks, you can't prove your tricks, so you're lying to the people. It's almost kind of like like what happened to Jesus with the Roman government. Like they go after this dude because people are following him and they can't control him.
Hmm.
So that's and what do you think of the magic in this? Because it's either they kind of have you guessing whether is he really supernatural or is this a trick?
Well, I was wondering the whole time. They did a
Right.
good job because I was like, okay, is he really magic or
Mm-hmm.
is it an illusion? And it turns out it was an illusion. I mean,
Right.
he was just really that good, and but I have to say there's a little bit of a murder mystery involved.
Yes.
But is it a murder? All of these things, and that's what makes these movies interesting and keeps you engaged, is because you're trying to figure out if it's real, if it's
Right.
not, and all that jazz. So,
It also
um,
gives it rewatchability.
right, you could
Yeah.
go back and watch. Okay, what were the obvious signs that they gave us that you just didn't pick up on.
Right. And a lot of it I like. It's something interesting too is like the yellow filter
Hmm.
that's on this is different and it makes it feel like late 1800s, early, 19th century type of thing. Um, and then the wipes and the fades, like Star Wars has always done that,
Hmm.
where it like, it turns into a circle or it pans out or it zooms in. So
Yeah,
I appreciated that. That was kind of cool.
he
Made it
was
feel
he
story-esque.
was definitely trying different style
Mm-hmm.
to make the movie stand out. And yeah, he did a pretty good job with it. I mean, I don't know if it was the first thing he ever directed, but it was interesting and
Mm-hmm.
it was different. It felt like you were watching an old story.
Right.
Um, Made it look like old film at points.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a good movie. If I have to give it a grade, I'd probably give it 6.5, 7 maybe, but probably more in the 6.5 because
That's pretty
I do
fair.
want to watch it again just to see the things or what I may have missed or would have given
Mm-hmm.
away what actually happens. But probably that's the only other time I'd watch it. Maybe one more
Sure.
time to kind of see, but I don't see myself rewatching this one over and over.
It's told interestingly enough, but it's pretty straightforward. Like he's in love with the girl, she mysteriously dies, and the government's after him.
Yeah.
And then he's got these tricks in between. The sword and the stone trick is cool.
Yeah, that's cool.
That
Yep.
was and how he talks about like Arthur pulling the sword out, and how they can't do it, but he lets the crown prince kind of get it out after he
Hmm.
tugs on it. Um, and then
And
the
that was kind of the beginning of the end.
Yes, because that's when he starts to get under his radar. And then what did you think of when he does the ghost, like when she's kind of going in and out?
Hmm.
I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it was
Um,
like I said, that's what had me questioning
mm-hmm.
if it was real or not. And
Right.
I don't know if I want to give away exactly what happened, but
Yeah.
it's good. I suggest if you haven't seen either one of these movies, they're both worth watching.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but yeah, this one was pretty good.
And I'd give it about a 7.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd give it about a 7. That seems fair. Slightly, it's above average for me. But it's a appetizer for what we're going to talk to about
Yeah.
next.
Okay, so well, like Dominic said, the next movie came. Well, which one came out first? Was it The Illusionist?
They were in the same year. I want to say The Illusionist came out first,
I don't see a release date on
um,
here. Let me see.
but I do know that, I was saying I was at a video store at the time, and I remember some Illusionist getting a little bit more chatter because you know how like when a bigger movie comes out, it's really vogue for like the people in the movie circles to like the more artsy one,
Hmm. Hmm.
even though it may not be better. Illusionist is the more artsy one, and I people were liking that more, but I think it's because it was like Nolan at the time was a big deal.
Almost some people who like to go against the grain. Yeah.
Yeah, and there was a little bit of that, but I mean to be fair, they're both good, but freaking Prestige is awesome.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that's our segue into the Prestige.
I wish we disagreed though, but we didn't on
I
this
know,
one.
I know. 2006, Christopher Nolan and his brother Jonathan, but it's based off of a novel,
Mm-hmm.
which I didn't realize. So this one is a little different because yes, there's a love story, but it's more of the dueling
Mm-hmm.
magicians, the age-old story.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
um this one, in my opinion, is probably, I mean, I don't know how I can't give it a 10. This is my favorite Christopher Nolan movie. Um, Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale just kill it. Michael Caine
Mm-hmm.
kills it. The girl who plays, let's see, Sarah, it's Rebecca Hall. The only other thing I've seen her in is The Town with Ben Affleck.
Oh, okay.
She's the love interest in
She was
that.
really good in it too.
So,
And then of course you have the damsel that they have. It's Scarlett Johansson for
yep.
most of the movie,
Hmm.
but at the
It's
beginning,
that Piper girl,
yeah,
Piper.
Piper. My wife likes her. She was in Coyote
Yeah, the
Ugly, and
Coyote
yeah,
Ugly girl. So this one is a little different because so Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale, Hugh Jackman is Robert, what is it, Angier, is that how you say his name? And then Alfred Borden.
yes,
And they both they work together, do a show,
mm-hmm,
and Michael Caine is kind of like the promoter,
Right.
Um,
He's like producer Nick.
right, right. He's like producing it, and they end up, without giving too much away,
Hmm.
they end up have a falling out, and then it becomes who's going to be the greatest. And the greatest trick is what do they call it?
The transporting man.
The transporting man,
Yes.
almost like the fly.
Yeah.
You go in one pod and you come out of the other.
Hmm.
And Christian Bale is able to do it, and Hugh Jackman is unable to do it.
Right.
And because of the incident that happened that made Hugh Jackman hate him in the first place,
Hmm.
this only fuels the feud more
Totally.
that Christian Bale is able to do the trick, the transporting man,
Right.
and Hugh Jackman is unable to do it until later when he gets a double, okay, a guy who looks like him, but he's not satisfied with that because he's
Yeah.
drunk and
And they
and
did a good job because
yeah,
it's
he's got like an
obvious.
overbite.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's almost
yeah, it's Hugh Jackman,
yeah.
but he's playing a
It's
different
like if Hugh
character.
Jackman was in real life. You
Right.
know what
So
I mean?
he does it, and he firmly believes that Christian Bale is not using a double.
Hmm.
He just has to know how he's doing it.
Yes.
And Christian Bale, I don't want to give away how he's in prison, and Hugh
Hmm.
Jackman ends up with his journal, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And he's reading it, and he's getting pissed off because Hugh
He can't decipher it.
and Christian Bale is obviously writing it knowing that Hugh Jackman is going to read it. So he's like chasing his tail type
There's
of
so
thing.
much sleight of hand. Yes.
Um, this movie though is a little different because they do go a supernatural route
Hmm.
without giving away what it is. And I think we're going to do a spoiler section, so just hang
Yeah, because I
tight.
want to elaborate a little bit, but yeah.
So there is a supernatural element to it that the illusionist does not have. So it does kind of separate a little bit,
Hmm.
but it's not in like you're kind of taken aback when you find out the supernatural thing that's going on. And then also when you figure out how Christian Bale's character is doing it, you're kind
Yes.
of like, holy crap, how did I not
And
see
that's
that?
one of those things where when you go back and watch
You'd
it,
see
you
everything.
see the other, yes, and
The whole
that's
movie, and I've seen other people talk about it.
hmm
The entire movie, not Christian Bale, Christopher Nolan is telling you how it's being done. The
hmm.
whole movie,
Well, the
and
first
you
shot,
just don't realize it.
yeah. And I mean, in the first shot is when you see all the top hats, but
Mhm.
it doesn't have any relevance till you get like in the middle of the movie. And another thing that makes this rewatchable and where you're kind of following it, but then you miss something, you got to look back. It's non-linear.
Yeah.
Like you hear about like he visits certain characters in the movie before you hear who those characters are because it's not told in order.
Mhm.
And then the you know how Christian Bale at the beginning is he's arrested and in court and then it goes away for you almost forget that happened.
Mhm.
You know, when you get about midway into the movie to like, 70% to the end, you almost forget about that and then it goes back to it and then it goes forward from that. It jumps around a lot, but in a good way. And Hugh Jackman, like, so I liked this movie when it came out. It was cool, but I hadn't seen it in probably 4 or 5 years. It's been a minute. Hugh Jackman is so young in this movie, and
Mhm.
it
I
feels
know.
weird to say that. This movie's almost 20 years old, but going
Well,
back and
Christian Bale looks young. I mean,
he
he's
looks
showing
just
his
like he
age
did in
now.
Batman,
Mhm.
yeah. But no, it hit. And are we revealing like that other character, or we don't really talk
Well,
about
we're
that
not
yet?
gonna do that
Okay,
just quite yet, but,
okay.
um,
Because that's probably one of my favorite things about it.
yeah, so probably the last, what, 10 minutes, 10, 15 minutes of this movie is them explaining everything and
Hmm.
going back and showing you what like, kinda re-showing you things and then
Right.
voicing over and telling you exactly what happened, and you're like, "Holy crap, how did I not see that?"
And they
Um
keep like Hugh Jackman ones up Christian Bale,
Mhm,
when he catches him at his show. And then Christian Bale ones up Hugh Jackman and they keep going back and forth and you don't know who's gonna win. Like and even when you think it ends, it's not over.
mhm,
And then there's a yeah,
and it gets violent,
yeah.
um, because Hugh Jackman is just so enraged. So, yeah,
They're
it's
obsessed with the real love story is between Hugh Jackman and Christian Bale because it's this like brotherly obsession with each
mhm,
other and who's truly better. It extends past like having a career because these guys are living it. Like this is their life. It's not their career, it's their
mhm.
life. And that back and forth is just very interesting to
Yeah,
watch.
it's some this movie is so I'm just gonna go ahead and give my grade.
Sure.
This movie, like I said, is probably a 10, but if maybe we can find something wrong with it, I would say a 9.5 at the most. This is a great movie and it's far superior to The Illusionist. So in
Yes,
my
I agree.
opinion, Prestige did it better. What say you?
Oh, the yes, because like I said, Illusionist I'd give a 7. This one, I want to give it I think it's worthy of a 10. There's two little nitpicks I have about it.
Okay,
But
well,
other than that, I say it's about a 9.5 or a 10. It's up there. It's obviously the better of
yeah,
the
yeah,
two. But I like this one we did because some of the other ones you've done, like one's a clunker and one's not, they're
yeah.
both good.
They're both good movies, absolutely.
And they're both, in that early 2000s. Prestige easily top 10 early 2000s movie.
Mhm.
Um, but that it's clearly better than Illusionist. Um, but what keeps Illusionist kind of even in the conversation is the actors, Edward Norton, Paul Giamatti, exceptional.
Cool.
But yeah, I want to dive a little more in, but I don't want to go
Well,
watch it if you haven't seen
yes.
it,
Go watch these movies if you haven't seen either one of
even
them.
if you don't care about magic. Like,
Yeah, because I don't care about
I'm not
magic.
the biggest magic guy either, but this is very well done.
So, yeah, well, now we're gonna go into our spoilers. So, if you stuck around this long, thank you. Come back after you watch the movies and listen to what we have to say about the spoilers of both movies.
Hmm.
We'll go a little bit more into it. So, The Prestige.
Hmm.
The I remember when I saw it in the theater, and I my jaw dropped, kind of like The Sixth Sense,
Hmm.
when you realize that number one, Christian Bale is a twin. You know,
Yes.
the twin thing, I never saw that coming, even though he tells you, or Christopher Nolan tells you the whole movie that there's two.
Right. Even Michael Caine says it. He goes, he has a double,
Hmm.
but you don't believe it because there's been no focus
Right.
on
Well,
the
he's like, that's the only way you can do it.
right.
And Hugh Jackman refused to believe that.
Hmm.
So that was a big jaw dropper for me. Even the
Right.
way he did it with the wife, how only one of them was in love with her, and she could tell they were
Yes.
different, and the finger thing,
That
all
was
these things.
extreme.
Right.
The brother broke
But
his
he had to.
fingers like
I
the
mean,
yes,
Hugh
they
Jackman
had
shot his finger off,
right.
so the only way to keep the jig up was
Right.
for him to amputate the other one. So
And
all of
yeah.
those things that they just
Well, sorry, and I was gonna say,
yeah,
you know how one was in love with the damsel and one was in love with the real wife,
right.
but then they would have that thing like, "Do you love me today?" Sometimes it'd be
Yeah,
no,
she's like, "No, not today, you don't,"
right?
you
So
know?
then that would have been the brother,
Mhm.
and then when he did love her, because he says he loved the wife, but then the brother loved the damsel,
Scarlett
the Scarlett
Johansson,
Johansson.
yeah.
But I like
Hugh
that,
Jackman was in love with Piper, the Piper
right?
girl who died, and, that was another one, the knots. He didn't
Hmm.
know what knot it was because he wasn't the one that tied the knot, it was the other brother,
That was
all of
yeah.
those. So, it's like
And
once you
it's
know
subtle.
it
Like
yeah.
they don't like it's just mentioned and they move on. And I like how when they're arguing, the bearded one, the other brother, takes the
Well,
little
yeah,
girl
Fallon
away.
Fallon.
Fallon, yeah, he takes the girl away, but I think that was the real father that wanted them away from the fight when they were
Uh,
fighting. There's things where you don't know who was who, but
mhm.
go ahead.
So, yeah, that all of that was great. So, you think that's the big reveal, but it's
Hmm.
not. There's another well, actually, don't they do the Hugh Jackman reveal first?
When he gets
So Hugh Jackman does the Tesla thing. He goes
right.
find Tesla and he actually starts copying
Hmm.
himself, cloning himself.
Right.
Um, which that I was like, holy crap, what?
Because you think that he was really just able to move himself.
Right. But no, he was actually cloning himself and then killing
The other
the
one,
other one.
and he got his hands dirty. But
Right.
yeah,
When but he was so narcissistic that he would kill himself or kill one because he didn't want there to be because why did he just make one copy and then
right.
just do the trick?
Yeah, without the technology.
Right. But he
Yeah.
couldn't do it. He was such a narcissist
Uh-huh.
or whatever you want, however you want to say it, that he couldn't do it. He wanted there to only be one.
That's
So
pretty extreme.
he was just killing himself and there were
Uh-huh.
hundreds of like so that kind of blew my mind. I was like, wow,
Yeah,
that's
because you think you figured it out when,
hmm
oh, that thing really does transport you. That's how he's doing it. Christian Bale was doing it with the double. Hugh Jackman's actually moving from one
right.
place to the other,
No,
but it's not. It's copying him, and that
yeah, it so
yeah,
it copies him and it sends the copy over there, and then
right,
the one standing there falls into the water and drowns.
right,
And the only explanation is he doesn't want there to be more than one. It's
right.
only for the trick.
And
It's
he
only
wants to
for
do it for real,
yep.
so that was pretty crazy. And um, the angle I really like is the whole Tesla thing because my dad taught me about I learned about Tesla a long time ago, like when I was a kid. And it's kind of like the first conspiracy because he does not get any credit up until recently
hmm
about electricity. It's always Edison and
Yep,
before
yep.
that Franklin. Um so I like that a real life person, you know what I mean? Like they
hmm
use a real life. I mean, he didn't make that,
Right. It's
but
fictionalized,
he
but
did
still.
use electricity and have like that thing, with the ball with the electricity shooting out. I thought it was so cool that they incorporated, Tesla and then played by David Bowie. I thought that was
Yeah.
cool. And yeah, like you said, you think you figured it out, but then it's the clone.
And then right before he kills him, then he shoots Hugh Jackman,
Mhm.
and that's when he reveals to him that there was two, right?
Right.
Eh,
Yeah, because once when he shoots him, that's when you realize that it was copying him the whole time. And like Christopher Nolan shows it in the first scene with the hats.
mhm.
Like how, and even when you see that scene, you're like, how did all those, like it was one hat,
And
but
there are multiple cats too.
yeah, multiple cats
Yeah.
too. Yeah, it's so weird. Um,
I don't know. I just think it's a brilliant movie,
yeah,
and now that I know that it's a novel, I might kind of want to read the novel and see
yeah,
how different it is or
compare it.
whatnot. Yeah.
Yeah, that's cool. Um, and I also, this one's more subtle, but I'll also like how they start off very poor,
hmm
both of them, especially Christian Bale, and they increase in riches throughout the film. I thought that was kind of a
Yeah.
nice little touch. Like they don't really mention it, but you notice them getting better dressed, better dinners, better housing, as it progresses. But no, it's very, very well done.
Yeah.
And then that little spot at the end when you see the air bubble,
Oh, yeah. The little bloop.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
with Hugh Jackman in the water
Mm-hmm.
tank, because you think Christian Bale's killed him in the alley, but then the one in the tank, so he's still alive, right? Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So that's cool because it keeps going like that. My only little nitpicks is the, when the clone copies himself,
Mm-hmm.
they never explain like how far or how, you know what I mean? Like how he ends up, like why does he end up 20 feet away? Why didn't he end up 100 feet away like the hats did? You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
the
Well, I think you're
output.
supposed to believe that he can set it to go wherever he wants it to.
Yeah, but that's never really,
Yeah, it's never really
so
said,
that,
but
but that,
but
that's a nitpick.
he's
Yeah,
also cloning himself.
true.
So,
Yeah, true.
they can do whatever they want.
But that's the only little nitpick is like, how do you determine how far or
Mhm.
where it shoots you to? And then the other thing is, I get Christian Bale because he was a twin. Finding the Hugh Jackman's kind of a stretch.
Mhm.
The cop, because
The
like,
copy,
well,
yeah.
let's go try to find another you down
Right.
the
I mean,
street,
that would be pretty difficult to find
and they
another.
find him quick.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it's like the next bar.
yeah.
So but they did a good job of making them look different, and there are people like that look similar because you have
Mhm.
stunt doubles, not quite as similar as they look, but nitpick. The rest. It's a great movie.
Yeah, and the illusionist, he it was a great illusion. The girl didn't die.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of the Romeo Juliet thing. He revives
right.
her with the vial, and
Yeah, she didn't really die, so it was a big illusion.
right.
So they both have, they're very similar, but then they're also very different. But
Hmm.
I think this was a good side by side of who did it better.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, we both agree that the Prestige is better.
Yeah, the
So
Prestige is
cool.
better.
All right. Well, you have anything else to add?
No, I was glad being here for episode 3 of
Yeah,
this, right? I'm
man.
in good
Yeah.
company. Return of the Jedi, Back to the Future 3. I'm in good company.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. So, all right. Well, please like, subscribe, tell your friends, and we will catch you on the next one.